So one of the most important reasons why you should own an index in comparison to trying to choose individual securities, and this goes whether you are a professional or a basic do-it-yourself retail investor, the number one reason is you will not miss the global trends. So let me explain why this is. So if you look at any type of trend, this is what it would look like. And this is going to be kind of the medium point. So really what our goal is you want to try and maximize that type of aspect. So what this is right here is the early adopters. And that would be, let's say that there's, back in the 1990s, early adopters would have been using the internet full force, where the rest of the world, obviously just still hasn't adapted it in their business or personal lives. And as you can tell, obviously in 2020, well, that's the maturity of the internet. And so now you're seeing a decline and you're seeing different technologies like blockchain and different things emerge. But let's use blockchain as an example. So as an early adapter, you're going to get maybe, you're probably going to have the higher risk associated to that trend, most volatility, but you're also going to be on the right side of actually those global trends. What you don't want to do is start investing in individual names right at the peak where it becomes now just household normality. And so for an example, one idea might be the difference between Walmart versus Amazon. But let's go through all of these specific things. So by owning the actual index, what the index will do is it will, by definition, so if we take the S&P 500, which is the 5 largest companies by market capitalization in the United States, it's going to include the most successful companies just by definition. That includes Amazon and Tesla and Netflix and Microsoft and Apple. So obviously these behemoths that have been crazy successful for investors would be the largest components inside the S&P 500. So what it's doing is it's absorbing the trends. So that's what we have here. One way to do this on your own, and I wouldn't necessarily advise to this, is own what you use. One way to get here is to actually own what you use. The first time that you used an Uber, why not buy Uber stock? The first time that you downloaded Instagram, why not own Facebook, which is the owner of Instagram? The first Amazon package that had arrived to your door, why not own Amazon stock? You run out and buy the latest, greatest iPhone, why not own that Apple stock? And what happens is, then when you stop utilizing things, so perhaps you start using Spotify for your music where you always used to use Google or you used Apple Music. What you want to do is when you stop using those items, you want to make sure that you're selling those types of securities. Now obviously that sounds complex and it's high maintenance and it's going to be against human nature because it's hard to be an early adapter for a lot of circumstances. And that's why the S&P 500, for an example, owning an index is going to do this for you. So let's draw a line. So what would have been here? This would have been, let's use companies like Sears, Kodak. We'll even use ones that are still pretty successful, but like Walmart. And so what's interesting is, so if you, General Electric, Wells Fargo. Now if you look at the right side of this, well, now what do we have? We have like Apple. We have Amazon. We have Tesla. There's a good one. Let's put General Motors down here. We have Netflix. Whereas here you might say, you could argue that Turner. So all of these companies, if you look at investing in those over the last, say, 10 to 15 years have been pretty abysmal. Whereas if you invested in these companies, you did, obviously very, very well. We'll put Microsoft in there. So now the beauty about the S&P 500 is that it automatically will reduce the exposure to these companies as the trends develop and increase exposure in these companies as those trends develop. So that's why you own the majority of these companies in the S&P 500. So why is that so crucial? It will never go to zero. So even though arguments on where GM's headed and different companies like that, you will never ever see the index go to zero. It's impossible to lose all of your capital. And you will never miss one of these up and coming companies because it's going to be a larger part of the ongoing global trend. Now what's interesting is, yes, if everyone adopted here on any one of these companies, you can imagine how amazing the market capitalization would be. But here's an example. If you think about Microsoft, look at how much market cap has actually increased in the last 5 years, even though Microsoft made the majority of its money for the early shareholders, back into the 90s. And that's because it's fully mature and now is virtually on almost every single business application almost in the world. And again, same with Apple. You can argue iPhone producers, etc., but almost every single human being on earth is plugged into the Apple ecosystem at least one way or another. And again, obviously Amazon and so on. So again, what S&P 500 will do is it will protect your capital from never going to zero, but it will also keep you fully invested and fully exposed to the ongoing trends globally so that you can maximize your return.